We have breaking news. First Lady Melania Trump, just moments ago.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania. The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings. Numerous fake images and statements about Epstein and me have been circulating on social media for years now. Be cautious about what you believe. These images and stories are completely false. I'm not a witness or a named witness in connection with any of Epstein's crimes. My name has never appeared in court documents, depositions, victim statements, or FBI interviews surrounding the Epstein matter. I have never had any knowledge of Epstein's abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island. I have never been legally accused or convinced of a crime in connection with Epstein's sex trafficking, abuse of minors, and other repulsive behavior. The false smears about me from mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals and entities looking to cause damage to my good name, to gain financially and climb politically, must stop. My attorneys and I have fought these unfounded and baseless lies with success and will continue to maintain my sound reputation without hesitation. To date, several individuals and companies have been legally obligated to publicly apologize and retract their lies about me, such as Daily Beast, James Carville, and HarperCollins, UK. Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record. Then, and only then, we will have the truth. Thank you.
More on the First Lady later in this hour, but first, cross your fingers. We have some good news. The fragile ceasefire between the United States, Israel, and Iran appears to be holding, but that's only step one. On Saturday, Vice President J.D. Vance is set to lead the U.S. negotiating team talks in Islamabad among the three countries, the U.S., Israel, and Iran. President Trump issued a fresh warning to Iran, saying, quote, all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel with additional ammunition, weaponry, and anything else that is appropriate and necessary for the lethal prosecution and destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place in and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with, end quote. Now, the president has also been sounding off about the United States' relationship with NATO. Today, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte delivered remarks in Washington. This comes after a 2.5-hour meeting yesterday with the president.
For increased investments and improved production to matter, they must be accompanied by a mindset shift. That mindset shift is well underway. But these shifts are often only fully appreciated with the benefit of time, and the space between can be precarious. Let's consider the most recent events. When it came time to provide the logistical and other support the United States needed in Iran, some allies were a bit slow, to say the least. In fairness, they were also a bit surprised. To maintain the element of surprise for the initial strikes, President Trump opted not to inform allies ahead of time, and I understand that. But what I see when I look across Europe today is allies providing a massive amount of support, basing, logistics, and other measures to ensure the powerful U.S. military succeeds in denying Iran a nuclear weapon.
Retired Navy SEAL and former Deputy Commander of Central Command, Vice Admiral Robert Harward joins me. Nice to see you again, sir.
Good to see you, Greta.
You told me when you sat down, and I think this is fascinating because I think any time we can try to reach Iranian people, that it's a big win for us. But you've spoken to Iranian news.
Yeah, this morning I was over at their networks here, and as they told me, it's the #1 distributed news network in Iran.
What were they asking? What questions?
Well, they talked about the president a lot. We reinforced this is a president who listens and talks to the Iranian people. We haven't seen that in the existence of the Islamic Revolution. So that in itself is unprecedented. And he made a commitment to them. Hey, we're not going to be slaughtered. Help is on the way. He sent help.
Did you get the sense that the questions, I mean, the questions can be two types. One is like, you got a lousy president, he's doing terrible things. Or did you get questions like, what's your president thinking? I mean, did you get the sense that this was sort of a free media or this was a biased media? What's your sense?
No, I sensed it was a free media trying to get information to the Iranian people that the Iranian people can listen to in their language, their culture, and so they had broad appeal. Now, I don't know if it's accurate. They're the #1 news station in Iran, but it's information that the people get. And that's helpful. I think that's what really changes Iran and the region. The more they see and understand what's going on outside the country, the more they understand how the regime is failing them. So I think it was to reinforce truth, to hear what people, leaders like myself and others are thinking, and how we interpret and what we're seeing for this end, so they could take that information themselves, unbiased by the regime, uncontrolled by the regime, and understand the context of what's going on.
Well, coincidentally, or fortunately for us trying to figure out what's going on, is that you were living in Tehran as a teenager when the revolution occurred, because your father was working there. Did you see the revolution coming? I mean, what was it like?
No, in fact, no. We knew Khomeini was sending in the cassette tapes, the campaign, and everyone was astounded that someone wanted to do something about Khomeini in France, but the French protected him, and don't forget, Carter was the president. Human rights was really shaping into being a foreign policy imperative for that administration, first time, and that played out in Iran. So when we saw it coming, in fact, I was at the Naval Academy, I went home every year for Christmas, martial law was already in effect, and my father had been there for years. Yeah, come home, we think we're going to make it through this thing. Well, obviously that didn't work, but what he did not foresee was the policies of the Carter administration, where they leveraged the violation of human rights against the Shah, a guy who'd come in and done land reform, women's rights. It was almost counter his culture. And that message, not only to the Iranian people, but more importantly, the armed forces, where if he used the armed forces to repress the people, we would pull out. Well, that was a clear message to the armed forces to flip with the revolution. So again, policies did us a lot of damage.
All right, now we're in this 10-day or period, 2 week or what, of a ceasefire. Naturally, the Iranians have lied for a long time about their uranium enrichment. So, is this? Do you have in your heart? Do you think Iran wants to be fair dealing right now?
No, they never have.
So what's the point? Just to buy more time?
Well, that first and foremost, and politically for them, just as it is for the president. This is the highest level meeting ever conducted between Iran and the United States. You have the Vice President of the United States sitting at the table with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Israelis. So that in itself plays politically on both sides of the table, but it also gives what they need, time. Now, for our side of the table, it gives us time as well, because we can do anything they want. So both sides will leverage it to their advantages, both operationally and politically.
See, I think it's the part that's to our advantage to say, look, we're trying to talk. We don't want to kill. We don't want to destroy. This is your chance.
And oil can flow through the straits. That's the most important thing to the president, I think. Today, hey, move your oil.
But is that enough? 10 days, is that enough to make a difference?
Sure, it's a starting point, and you see the markets, you see the people. Everything and anything is good, so take what you can get. And you're seeing markets now, it's not as wide variance, it's staying in a range. So I think these are indicators of progress in one fashion or another.
All right, well, let's hope for the best. Vice Admiral Robert Hayward, thank you. Very nice to see you, sir.
Always good to see you.
Coming up, will President Trump punish countries that opposed the war in Iran or didn't help? What will the punishment be? That when the record continues.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
What's gold is new again. Pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with Preserve Gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
Millions of Americans rely on a statin to reduce cholesterol, but statins can deplete CoQ10 levels. I recommend Cunol CoQ10 with 3 times better absorption and the #1 cardiologist recommended form. It helps replenish what statins deplete. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid. old are you?
11.
Is President Trump planning on taking some nations to the woodshed who did not support the United States in the war with Iran, and what is likely to be that punishment? Here's what the president is looking at. Spain blocked U.S. planes from using its airspace if the use involved fighting the war with Iran. Italy blocked an air base, and France restricted the use of a military base. Germany has been critical of the war in Iran. It's important to note that Germany serves as an important hub for the U.S. military for our Middle East operations. And according to a report by the Wall Street Journal, the White House is proposing moving U.S. troops from NATO countries that are viewed as unhelpful to nations who are supportive. Meanwhile, it's not often we hear from the First Lady, Melania Trump. Each First Lady, by the way, is very different from other First Ladies. You might not agree, but I think being First Lady is not the greatest job in Washington. It might be the worst. Several First Ladies really don't like being in the public eye, so we don't hear from them that often. Today, in a surprise, we heard from Melania Trump. She decided she had a message and she wanted to deliver it herself. White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Annie Linskey, joins you. Nice to see you, Annie.
Good to see you.
You agreed, so being First Lady, I mean, everyone thinks, oh, what a great job and everything, but you wake up every day and your husband's being insulted, and then you are too.
And also, you don't get paid. There's no salary for this particular job, no job description really, other than everybody else's expectations. So yeah, I think it's a really, really challenging job. I mean, it's an incredible platform as well. And the First Lady has used her platform to help children, to bring hostages, to bring families together. Bringing children from Ukrainian children who are taken by the Russians and bringing them back. It's been something that she's been very proud of her involvement in that effort. But yeah, today she came out and made a statement that nobody was expecting to hear.
And what people probably want, we were all afraid of Barbara Bush.
Yeah,
Bush. even after Bush 41 left office, we all sort of tiptoed around her. I loved Barbara Bush. She was a hoot. Okay, turning to NATO. Wall Street Journal, your name's on the byline, has an article today. What's the president going to do?
Yeah, we know that the president, and he's been very public about this, but both privately and publicly, the president has said he's very angry with some of the NATO allies who have said things that are not particularly what he views as helpful in the U.S. effort against Iran. And now that the war is winding down, he has been eager to sort of exact some of that punishment on the allies that he has found to be unhelpful.
Well, but I don't think NATO's admitted that this war affects them. I think they just woke up yesterday and found out they needed oil. I mean, it's like, they've all been watching and sort of snarling at us, not letting us use their base, not letting us use their airspace. And all of a sudden, one day they wake up and find out, oh, no, what about our oil?
Well, from their perspective, this was not a war that they were read in on. When the president started, when this war began, there were foreign ministers from 2 NATO countries who were in the Mideast and had no idea that the United States and Israel were going to start bombing.
Well, they should read the Wall Street Journal now and read all the rest of the media, because the rest of us were talking that it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's like the build-up when Putin invaded Ukraine. We kept talking, it's coming, it's coming. They can't say, oh, my.
Right. Yes, it was clear that tensions were rising. But what the president is thinking about doing to exact this punishment is an interesting plan. It's not necessarily what he'll choose to do, but one of the plans that is under discussion at the White House and in the administration is to move NATO troops from the countries that were not particularly helpful or supportive of the United States to countries that have been more helpful and have been more supportive. And those countries happen to be, it's quite interesting, along the in Eastern Europe. So these are countries that include Poland, Estonia, Lithuania, Greece, Romania. And these are countries that would be moving, this plan, if the president decides to go ahead with it, would move U.S. troops from Western Europe close to Eastern Europe and really closer to Russia. So it would be a significant change in the deployment in Europe.
And somehow, though, that those are the ones that are the biggest risk of an expanded Putin. So in some ways, that does help NATO, because you've got these Western Europe countries that are, they're quivering, wondering what Putin's next step is, if he's going to pull a Hitler and keep marching west.
And perhaps it should be no surprise that the countries that have been most supportive of U.S. foreign policy are exactly those Eastern European countries that are facing Russia the most closely.
I like Mark Rutte, the Secretary General, and he was here 2.5 hours yesterday with the president. And you know he's got a tough job keeping, it's like herding cats, keeping NATO in line.
Yes, keeping NATO in line, but also you know, keeping the relationship with the president as a constructive one. And my understanding is that at least from his end of things, there was a feeling that it was a very constructive conversation with the White House yesterday. It wasn't, you didn't see a big rupture in the alliance out of coming out yesterday. So
well, we can't just pull out of NATO. So everyone who's freaked out that we're going to pull out of NATO, it's a treaty. You can't just up and quit. So we got to get so that's not happening.
Indeed, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, as senator, led a legislative effort to ensure that Congress would have to be involved if there was going to be some sort of formal withdrawal from the alliance. But what the president can do is he can move and he can change the deployment. We've also heard that part of this plan could be to close a base in a NATO country as a way of kind of punishing a country that was not supportive of the U.S. efforts.
Never dull. Annie Linskey of the Wall Street Journal, always nice to see you.
Good to see you.
On Tuesday, U.S. Army veteran Courtney Williams was arrested by the FBI. She has been indicted in what the Justice Department is calling an alleged transmission of classified national defense information, or in simple terms, leaking classified information. The 40-year-old held a top-secret clearance. She allegedly shared information with a journalist who later wrote a book and an article. The DOJ says Williams also disclosed unauthorized information on her social media accounts. While not named as part of this indictment, journalist Seth Harp has taken X with sharp words to defend his book, a 2025 article published on Politico, which specifically names Williams. He says, quote, Courtney Williams is a veteran, mother, and a patriotic American. She's committed no crime. Trump's unhinged DOJ will not even say what classified information she allegedly leaked. Her arrest and imprisonment is an outrage. Free Courtney Williams, end quote. Now, beforehand, FBI Director Kash Patel had also posted, and he posted, let this serve as a message to any would-be leakers. We are working these cases and we are making arrests. The FBI will not tolerate those who seek to betray our country and put Americans in harm's way. Coming up, could there be a renewed military draft in the United States? The latest for the record continues.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
I got a CT scan, and the next thing that I heard was you have to have surgery immediately, or you have 4 months to live. It was the hardest moment of my life because I felt like the world fell out from under me.
It was the worst news I've ever heard. Our world changed that day.
Every 15 seconds in America, someone like Jay hears the words, "You have cancer." And this year, more than 600,000 Americans will lose their lives to this devastating disease. But hope lives because of people like you. Go online or scan to donate just $19 a month. Your gift will help save lives.
If I have a chance to make it through this, it will be because of the American Cancer Society's focus on research and innovation.
At the American Cancer Society, we're leading the fight against cancer on every front, funding breakthrough research, helping patients reach life-saving treatment at no cost, and giving families a free place to stay near care.
I don't know how many more holidays I'm going to have with Jay. We need a cure now. The American Cancer Society gives us that fighting chance.
Cancer doesn't stop and let you catch up. It's continuing to move. The funding to the American Cancer Society allows us to keep up the pace with cancer.
Your monthly gift helps fund the research and care that families like Jay's depend on. Become a monthly donor today and receive this American Cancer Society t-shirt as our thank you.
Hope is something that has helped me get through this and given me the courage and the strength.
Cancer won't wait, and neither can we. Please go online or scan to donate today. Every minute, every dollar, every act of hope brings us closer to a world without cancer. Donate today.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
Hi, I'm former Major League All-Star Lee Mazzilli. I'm proud to have played in New York for both the Mets and the Yankees. I'm also proud to be a longtime supporter of Tunnel to Towers Foundation. T2T helps our firefighters, our police, our soldiers, and their families. You can join their cause as well. Just $11 a month will help these brave men and women who keep us safe. Go to T2T.org for more information on how your donation can help.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
President Trump is warning that the heavy attacks on Iran could start again, and this time even harder, if Iran refuses to sit down and make a deal to end this war. The 5-week-old war has already devastated Iran. The president is standing firm on his 2 key demands. 1, Iran will not be allowed to have nuclear weapons, and 2, the Strait of Hormuz must stay open so oil tankers and ships can move freely. At this hour, the 2-week ceasefire appears to be hanging, but by a thread. The current biggest sticking point is Lebanon. Israeli strikes against Iran-backed Hezbollah terror group are still going on there. Tehran claims that Lebanon was supposed to be part of the ceasefire deal, but Washington says that was never agreed to. Despite this disagreement and possibly others, U.S. officials are moving forward with plans to attend peace talks in Islamabad, Pakistan's capital. Those talks are scheduled for Saturday. Vice President J.D. Vance will be leading the American delegation. Senior correspondent John Huddy joins me from Tel Aviv, where it is 11:27 p.m. John.
Yeah, and Greta, let me tell you something. This has been the quietest day in 40 days for millions of people here. There haven't been the blaring of, the alarms that jolt you out of bed on phones. We haven't heard the air sirens. People actually got a good night's rest last night. However, that's not the case up north. In northern Israel, we're getting reports that sirens once again sounded in Haifa, the northern Israeli coastal community, in Nahariya, which is just south of the Lebanon border, and some of the other communities along the border, warning of possibly incoming Hezbollah rockets and drone infiltrations. We're waiting for more information. But on that note, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu once again tonight emphasizing there is no ceasefire with Lebanon. There is no ceasefire with Hezbollah. Now, he says that Israel is continuing to strike Hezbollah with full force. Whether he's going to start pulling back on that remains to be seen. But also, again, repeated what he said earlier today in a statement that, quote, in light of the repeated requests from Lebanon to open direct negotiations with Israel, he said he instructed his cabinet to open direct negotiations with Lebanon at the earliest possible time. That meeting is supposed to take place next week between Israel and Lebanese delegations in Washington, D.C., according to a State Department official. Now, the Prime Minister said tonight there are 2 main goals. First, disarming Hezbollah, and then second, a historic sustainable peace agreement between Israel and Lebanon. The Lebanese government has tried to disarm Hezbollah, but to this point, those efforts have been mainly unsuccessful. Now, the IDF intensified, Greta, its strikes on Hezbollah in Lebanon really over the past 24 hours, killing the nephew of the Secretary General of Hezbollah and then launching one of the largest attacks on Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon and South Beirut since Hezbollah joined the fight on March 2nd, leveling numerous buildings, more than 100 Hezbollah command and control targets within just 1 minute, according to the IDF yesterday. There's been international outrage about this. Numerous countries, including Pakistan, Qatar, Egypt, France, the UK, Italy, Australia, all condemning Israel's ongoing military operations in Lebanon and calling for a ceasefire with Lebanon, and that ceasefire proposal to include Lebanon. Now, today, Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, who's going to be leading, from what we understand, the Iranian delegation in Islamabad, said that Lebanon and the, quote, entire resistance axis form an inseparable part of the ceasefire. And then On that note, Iran's president posting a message on X also today, in part writing that renewed aggression by the Zionist regime against Lebanon blatantly violates the initial ceasefire. And then he goes on to say, our hands remain on the trigger. Iran will never forsake its Lebanese brothers and sisters. Last night, Greta, we heard something very similar from Prime Minister Netanyahu saying Israel stands ready to fight again if necessary, and also that, quote, our finger is on the trigger. He softened his tone today, but nonetheless emphasizing there is no ceasefire with Hezbollah, and those operations, those expanded military operations in Lebanon will continue. Greta?
John, before I let you go, we said the president of Iran says that they're not going to abandon their brothers and sisters in Lebanon. But is the Lebanese government the same as Hezbollah, or is Hezbollah different and the Lebanese government is trying to get rid of the Hezbollah?
Yeah, so Hezbollah is a political party. They are part of the Lebanese parliament. But they're two separate things. You have the Lebanese government, you have the Lebanese army, which is separate from Hezbollah. So the Lebanese government over the last couple years has been, and since there was a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, particularly Hezbollah in November, I think it was 2024, you know, the Lebanese government has been trying to spearhead efforts to disarm Hezbollah. But Hezbollah remains very strong in southern Lebanon and still has a very strong military and political force in southern Lebanon and South Beirut as well. So it's been very, very difficult.
All right, don't make your head spin, but whatever happened to disarming Hamas? I haven't heard anything about that since like October. Did Hamas ever get disarmed in Gaza?
Yeah, actually, no, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because in all of this, people forget about Hamas. No, Hamas hasn't disarmed. Hamas still has about an estimated 15,000 fighters. This is something I talked about with Effie Defrin, the Brigadier General, the head, of the IDF spokesperson's unit. He said they are still armed. They still have 15,000 strong fighters, but there is a proposal going forward right now to disarm Hezbollah, or disarm Hamas, but Hamas is still calling for full Israeli, basically withdrawal from Gaza, and that's not something Israel's willing to do. Israel still maintains that buffer zone between the communities, between the kibbutzim, along basically the border of Gaza, and then those sections of Gaza where Hamas has still a lot of areas there.
Well, that was supposed to be step 2, so I guess we're just skipping over step 2 in Gaza and Hamas. John Huddy, thank you as always. And the military draft may be coming back, or at least a modified draft. Right now, there is no sign the U.S. military is planning to bring back an actual draft anytime soon. However, starting this December, eligible young men will be automatically registered into the military draft pool. Instead of having to sign up themselves, the government will handle the registration for them. The United States Selective Service System released its strategic 4-year plan. It runs through 2030. It reads in part, on December 18, 2025, the President signed the fiscal year 2026 National Defense Authorization Act into law, mandating automatic selective service registration. The Selective Service System will implement the change by December 2026, resulting in a streamlined registration process and corresponding workforce realignment, end quote. In the event of a military draft, not all men registered with the Selective Service System would be called to report for duty. The agency would randomly draw from a lottery of birthdays and numbers to establish the order that individuals would be inducted. As an aside, and just in my opinion, if this is required of men, it should be required of women too. Women can do military jobs. Anyway, that's my thought. Coming up, an accused murder in a train attack seen on tape, and now the judge says he can't be tried. That when the record continues.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist-recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
Another lost summer scrolling and swiping? Turns out the fix is right here. Create new lifetime memories from the comfort of your backyard. No passports, no reservations. Latham's premium handcrafted pools can be installed in weeks. Our pools won't stain or crack and never require costly resurfacing. And with our crystal finish, you can bring your favorite exotic watercolor and shimmer right to your own backyard. Visit LathamPool.com now. Latham is a proud sponsor of USA Artistic Swimming.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America by Americans with American materials.
We're proud to create jobs right here in South Carolina. It might not be the easiest way, but it's the right way.
We make American flags the way they should be made, where they should be made.
Join our pledge to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
Rob trusts Prevagen for his brain, and this is his story.
I'm Rob. I run a sanctuary for tigers in Southern California. I've been working with tigers for over 30 years. I found that I was taking various supplements for my physical health. I wanted to take something for my brain as well. After taking Prevagen, I felt more confident. I felt more in the moment. I stopped taking Prevagen for a while, and I noticed a difference. I got right back on it. Prevagen really works.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
This is a bottlenose dolphin, and this is the breakthrough nutrient doctors discovered that helped some dolphins age healthier than others. It's called C15, and the more they had in their diet, the healthier they aged. Now, over 100 peer-reviewed studies later, Fatty 15 is bringing this discovery out of the ocean into everyday life to give your cells the same age-related benefits as all those happy, healthy dolphins. Fatty 15, healthy aging for all.
Stop, check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at ShadyRays.com.
You know, WeatherTech isn't just for new cars. No matter how old or new your car is, it deserves WeatherTech. With laser measured protection for practically every car on the road, we've got you covered. Because messes don't care what year your car is. Whatever you're driving, we got it. We got it. We got it. Got it. We got it. We got it. We've got it. Oh, we got it. No matter what year your vehicle is, it deserves WeatherTech. Order your American-made protection today at WT.com or WeatherTech. You know we got it.
I've been using Experian Boost to help raise my credit scores, but Experian Boost is even better because now my monthly insurance payments could help boost my scores too. It does it instantly and it's free. So get it through the Experian app.
23-year-old Irina Zarutska moved to the United States from her home in Ukraine to be safe from Putin and the invasion, and then the unthinkable. She was stabbed to death on a train in North Carolina. Her murder was captured on tape. A 34-year-old homeless man was arrested, and now he's not going to trial, at least not now. He is incompetent to stand trial. DeCarlos Brown Jr. was evaluated by medical experts in December 2025, and the experts determined that DeCarlos Brown Jr. is mentally incompetent to stand trial on state murder charges. Brown's attorney has asked to delay his client's competency hearing by 180 days. Brown also faces federal charges and will remain in custody. Meanwhile, Tesla owner Elon Musk has contributed $1 million to help a nationwide campaign honoring Zarutska by creating murals with her image. Recently, a mural was scrapped in Rhode Island due to backlash by the mayor and left-wing activists. They were displeased with where the money was coming from for the mural honoring the murdered young Ukrainian woman. The mural has now been moved to a different location, this thanks to the owners of a Lebanese restaurant in Providence. Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School, Alan Dershowitz, joins me. Good afternoon, sir. And if you could explain because everyone's probably wondering why this man is not going to trial now, and even incompetency and defense of insanity, and how they are different.
Well, insanity is a defense at the time of the crime. That is, when he slit her throat, when he murdered her in cold blood, did he understand what he was doing? Did he think he was slicing a watermelon? Of course not. He knew he was slicing a human being. That would be a defense on the merits. But before we get to a trial, the person has to be competent to stand trial. The Supreme Court has defined that as rational and factual understanding of the charges against him, allowing him to participate in his defense, to confer with his lawyer, to understand the plea offer, etc. Now, the real problem is this. The Supreme Court has said if a person is found incompetent to stand trial, he can't be held indefinitely. He can only be held for a reasonable period of time. So you have the following hypothetical scenario. A person is found incompetent to stand trial. They can never restore his competence. He has permanent psychosis, and he has to be freed. At that point, they can seek his civil commitment, but they have to prove by a pretty high standard that he's dangerous. Now, in this case, they could do that pretty easily just by showing the videotape of what he did. But incompetency to stand trial has sometimes been used to essentially circumvent the system, and some people have gotten a get out of jail free card as the result of it. In this case, it probably makes the difference only whether he serves his time in a prison or in a mental hospital. He's not ever going to see freedom again, I don't believe.
Years ago, I had a case in which my client, I think, spoke the language Fukienese or something, which is some unusual dialect in China. And it was the obligation of the State Department, since I was a public defender, to find someone to translate it, because I don't speak that language at all. They could not find anybody who could translate this man to English, and English to Fukienese, this dialect, this Chinese dialect. So he was found to be incompetent to stand trial because he couldn't assist his lawyer, and his lawyer couldn't assist him.
I don't think that was the right decision. They should have just gone to whatever lengths is necessary to find a translator.
They couldn't find one. It was bizarre. They couldn't. Actually, I take that. It was actually, this man spoke this language, and he supposedly beat up his friend who spoke the same language. And there was one translator at the State Department, and the State Department grabbed that one, and we couldn't share a translator, obviously. So for that reason, the case was dismissed, because they couldn't find anybody.
Well, the reason the case was dismissed was because he had a great lawyer who was able to use that for purposes of defending him, namely you. But I don't think that's what incompetency to stand trial was intended to do. It was intended for crazy people. And we've all, anybody who's practiced law for a long time, has had defendants who really can't understand anything. And to put them on trial is to deny them their rights under the Sixth Amendment to confront witnesses. There was a famous case that I was peripherally involved in where a person robbed a bank and then crashed into a tree and suffered retrograde amnesia. He was perfectly rational, but he couldn't remember what happened and couldn't tell his lawyers whether he did or didn't do the bank robbery. So there are some very, very complicated cases. In this case, this guy seems as crazy as anybody could possibly be and as dangerous as anybody could possibly be. And the main point is to make sure he never, ever, ever sees the light of day again. He cannot ever be allowed to go free. His lawyer is going to say, look, he's incompetent to stand trial. He can be held for a reasonable period of time. But if his competency can't be restored, he has to be freed. And that may, in fact, be the law.
That's it.
To commit him under civil commitments. But they have to prove he's dangerous, which they will be able to do.
That's the easy part. He's very dangerous. Alan Dershowitz, thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, a man arrested in the disappearance of an American woman in the Bahamas. Find out who was arrested, why, when the record continues.
Americans have lost billions of dollars in their retirement accounts during the dot-com bubble of 2000.
And inflation is only getting worse.
Patriot Gold Group just introduced our America 250 Inflation Protection No Fee for Life IRA.
I'm sure glad Eileen and I rolled over our IRAs into gold in 2019.
On Wall Street, there's a saying, sell in May and go away.
My saying is, call the Patriot Gold Group today.
Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the No Fee for Life IRA. Patriot Gold Group is patriots protecting patriots.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
The first time I experienced vertigo, the room was spinning, like I was in a clothes dryer. Then I started taking Lipo Balance Support. Its ingredients are clinically shown to help reduce dizziness and spinning. Take back control with lipoflavonoid.
Need blood pressure support? Total Beets contain a patented key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. That's why Total Beets is the #1 best-selling beets brand in America. Take control of your health with Total Beets. Search Amazon now for Total Beets.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out loud? Let me tell you what Patriot Mobile stands for. They stand for the lives of the unborn. They stand for the Second Amendment and the right to protect yourself and your family. They stand for our veterans and first responders who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today and support a company that doesn't just say they stand for something, but one that stands for the things that matter the most.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that, no needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
Earlier today, the husband of a missing Michigan woman was arrested in the Bahamas. Brian Hooker, the husband of Lynette Hooker, was arrested for questioning in connection to his wife's disappearance. Brian told authorities that on the evening of April 4, the couple, while on their small dinghy heading towards their sailboat, and it was anchored off the coast of Hopetown, Bahamas. While on the dinghy, and according to Brian, Lynette fell overboard. According to her husband, Lynette had the keys to the boat, and when she fell overboard, she was carried away by strong rip currents. Brian claims without the keys to the dinghy, he had to paddle all the way back to shore in Hopetown. When he got to shore is when he reported his wife missing. However, Lynette's daughter and Brian's stepdaughter, Carly Aylesworth, is not buying Brian's narrative. She told CBS News that her mother was an experienced swimmer and had been sailing for more than 10 years. She also told the news outlet that her stepfather was always driving and in charge of the keys. Aylesworth also shared a voicemail that her stepfather Brian had sent to her.
Hello, honey. I just got a call from Hopetown Search and Rescue, and I found a flotation device that I threw to Mom when she fell overboard, and so they haven't found her yet, but they can now focus all of their efforts in a smaller area, and they're still out there searching today. So I just wanted to update you and let you know. I love you. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Yesterday, before his arrest, Brian Hooker posted a message on Facebook. It reads in part, quote, "I'm heartbroken over the recent boat accident in unpredictable seas and high winds that caused my beloved Lynette to fall from our small dinghy near Elbow Cay in the Bahamas." He added, quote, "Despite desperate attempts to reach her, the winds and currents drove us farther apart. We continue to search for her, and that is my sole focus," end quote. The couple has been documenting their sailing trips and even created an Instagram account. What was their last post? Well, it is the picture that you see on your screen. The caption reads, quote, "Not going anywhere for a while," end quote. That was posted 6 days ago. Lynette has not been found, and search and rescue operations are still underway. And as an aside, according to a police report, and this report may have absolutely zero relevance to this investigation, in 2015, Lynette was arrested in a domestic violence case against her husband. Forensic criminologist Dr. Laura Pettler joins me. Nice to talk to you again, and tell me, where do you start? What are your first questions?
Oh, hi, Greta. I was thinking about the story that he told. And, the problem I have with the story is not what he said, it's what he didn't say. Because there's a huge gap of information and a series of steps missing from we left the hotel to she fell overboard. And this is very common in certain patterns of staging behavior in domestic violence related homicide cases. So for me, that's where I start, was with what he said.
I would go to the Coast Guard or the Marine or whatever it is in the area and find out whether those what the sea was like that night, because they've obviously got their boat moored a little bit of a distance away, and they have a dinghy, and it's usually not that far. You don't moor your boat that far away. And I'd find out if the seas were really that rough that night, because if they're that rough that night, that tends to corroborate what he says. If it turns out the water was like glass, then I would be growing. My suspicion would be growing.
Agreed. I think that the weather and the conditions are critically important. And also, for me, again, the victimology and the fact that her daughter is saying she didn't normally drive, that would be uncharacteristic. It's normal for the key to be in the ignition, but then it be tied to the driver, which is also normal if you know something about boating. Then, of course, normally people tell a story like this. Well, we left the hotel, then we went down to the boat, then we got on the boat, then we went a little ways, then the water started to get really bad, and they go in this sequence of events when it's actually true, when it's a memory. But when they don't want to talk about what happened before she went, quote unquote, overboard, that's where you get the jump from, we went out, she fell over, the key was with her, and I came back. I think that, saying that the key was on Lynette, I think that was a huge misstep here on his part. The failure of being able to have the engine running. I think that was just an added thing, very much cognitive overload there.
Well, people who are boating like that, or who are, traveling boat with their dinghy, they usually, if they haul it, drag it behind or something, they went to shore either to buy groceries or to have something to eat or something to drink. And so they were someplace. And so if they were having any sort of domestic dispute, somebody, if they're in a bar and drinking, that would be one thing. If they're in a grocery store and everything seems perfectly normal. And I don't understand why they were ashore or how long they were ashore. Then I'd find it doubtful that they were spending the night ashore, because they stayed on their boat.
Right, and that information is kind of sketchy right now. It's not fulfilled. And I was noticing something, too, about the timeline, Greta. One of the things I noticed is in the post that the media is reporting, they're sharing this series of pictures when they first got the boat and they were rehabbing the boat, restoring the boat. And then there's this gap between like 2023 and 2025 where they didn't post anything. So I think that figuring out the milestones of their relationship and then seeing what the daughter had to say and the friends and family, and kind of taking a deep dive into the relationship, it's going to be illustrious of what actually happened here, and it's going to show any benefit that the husband would have had here to maybe potentially harm his wife. There's always a benefit to a murder, because murder is conflict resolution for an offender in these types of cases. That's what fits the homicidal pattern.
And of course, you want to know how far she's from shore. She's an avid swimmer. Could she have swum to shore? And whether I'd take a look at that boat to see if there was any blood or anything else, just to suggest there'd been any sort of fight or anything. And looked at that. But we'll probably find out a lot more in the next few days. Dr. Laura Pettler, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Greta.
Coming up, hundreds of people are flocking to a park to see something so rare. Why has everyone been so fascinated by this? That one, the record continues.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green lip mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming. It's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
I had considerable pain in my back.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels.
I'm telling you about something that's gonna change your life. It has revived me.
this works.
I'm not a prisoner anymore to my pain.
As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. Today, I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL. And look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years. Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great. If you're in pain, I want you to know that there is real hope out there. I'm living proof. See the difference it can make in your life, just like it did in mine.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. Buy 1 bottle of Omega XL and get a second free. Plus, we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. A total value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. Buy 1, get 2 free. Call or go online right now.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Before Apoquel Chewable for allergic itch, giving dogs pills was a battle of wits.
Oh, Maria, I'm wise to your foolish game.
Is it gone?
Totally gone.
Relief for itchy dogs can be easier. Apoquel, the trusted #1 treatment for allergic itch, is available in a tasty chewable that works fast.
May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations, serious infections, or pre-existing cancers. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs under 12 months of age with serious infections or in breeding, pregnant, or lactating dogs.
Ask your vet for Apoquel Chewable.
Do it!
That's right. We have a brand new alert. It's called a bird alert. Some birds are causing a ruckus on opposite sides of the world. First up, we go to Thailand, where this ostrich turned a drive down the highway into a safari. The ostrich, named B1, escaped his home and took off running. Drivers captured video of B1 running alongside cars on the interstate, and he's almost keeping up. Ostriches, by the way, can reach a top speed of 43 miles per hour, which is a little slower than most highway speeds. He was eventually caught, and his owner was found. Turns out he made it across state lines. He was found in the province next to the one from which he's from. Now to New York City, where crowds are flocking to the park to catch a glimpse of a new celebrity. Who is it? It is this bird, an American woodcock. What makes it so special? It's not only cute, but it also has a funny walk. It takes a few steps, and his body starts bobbing. It almost looks like it's dancing. Every year, these birds stop in New York while they are migrating north. But this year, more people became fascinated by it thanks to videos shared on social media. Since it landed late last month, hundreds of people have flocked to come to see it. But time is running out. By the end of this month, the woodcock is expected to migrate back north. Thank you for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take, is up next. Stay with Newsmax.